Hey guys, Argent Templar here. So this is another episode of Better Know a Heresy, and today we're going to be talking about Montanism, which is not about the state of Montana, as disappointing as that might be. So it's about a charismatic preacher from the 2nd century named Montanus. Montanus, I believe, is how it's pronounced, hence Montanism. This is from the early 2nd century in Anatolia. You may notice a lot of these come from the East. That's largely because of how influential Gnosticism and other Eastern religions were. So even though the East was more Christian, it also had more heresies. Very few heresies came from the Western Roman Empire. The only one I can really think of is Donatism. But the vast majority of them came from the East as a result of Christianity commingling with other religions. So what monotism was basically about, monotonism, sorry, I tend to drop syllables, was monotonists believed that anyone could be a prophet, that all believers, all baptized believers, possessed the gift of prophecy. Uh, so basically, he had a philosophy very similar to modern day charismatic groups, where he would go into trances and ecstatically speak prophecy. He'd talk about the end of the world. He'd talk about what was going to happen in the future. He would just make all these declarations and claim that God was speaking through him. And he taught to all of his followers that they could also, if they let Christ into their hearts, they could also make prophecies. God would also speak through them. They just merely had to ask. There's a number of other things that were involved with this, which we'll we'll get to in a minute why this was heretical. But some of the other things he came up with were that women and girls were forbidden to wear ornaments and virgins had to wear veils. They allowed martyrs and prophets uh, the ability to forgive sins. So I guess that means anyone can forgive sins. Um, they allowed women to become bishops and presbyters. It's just a very strange bunch of stuff. So why was this heretical? This is heretical because it's a big problem if every random person is able to make prophecy and to be taken seriously. Because there are a lot of crazy people throughout history, and to this day, who just make bold declarations. It's very hard to tell apart a legitimate vision from just the ramblings of a lunatic. Most schizophrenic people who, or just a lot of schizophrenic people who kill people, um, will talk about how God or the devil or some supernatural figure told them to do it. Did they actually? We don't know. Because when you have something that's purely an internal experience, unless the other person respects you and respects your judgment and has some reason to think you're a reliable source, um, they're really under no obligation. That's the word I was looking for, to accept your claims. So so monotonous. There's no reason for anyone to believe him because he's just some random guy from Anatolia. He's not even like a saint. He doesn't even have some miraculous powers. Like maybe if there was like a saint who, when they were alive, they were able to do miracles in front of people, maybe their prophecies would you'd have more of a reason to believe them, which is kind of what happened with like Jesus, where he said, I will resurrect myself from the dead so you can know I'm just not some random crazy person. And he did that in front of people, and then people believed him. And a lot of the times in the Old Testament, prophets would call down fire from the sky, or they'd have something supernatural happen to show that they weren't just some random crazy guy. But monotheism throws that away and says you don't really need any proof anyone can be a prophet. And that perspective more or less led to Protestantism and to everybody in the church claiming divine inspiration and just everything fracturing about. So ultimately, what happened to Montanism was the Orthodox Church and them fought a long battle, but it never really spread that widely outside of Anatolia. It still had some pull there for a couple centuries after its discovery, but with the death of its leader and the uh, elevation of the Orthodox Church and eventually the Bishop of Rome and the Council of Bishops as a more centralized authority over early Christendom, Montanism, like most early heresies, rapidly vanished in the face of increasingly clear and difficult to reinterpret doctrine. Difficult to reinterpret in the context of a lot of things were just settled more by the third and fourth century, and it was a lot harder to just show up and start claiming things that had already been decided by a vote of all the bishops of the church. Anyways, that's Montanism. This has been Better Know a Heresy. I'll talk to you guys later.